Hi everyone, myself Vishnu and welcome to Network Rhinos Uncut Videos. So in this video, we'll be talking about the 10 most common networking interview questions and how to answer them. Without wasting much time, let's get into the video. First question. In the interview, normally HR asks you, tell me about yourself. Whenever they ask you, tell me about yourself, introduce yourself with your name and your uh, uh, technology you're familiar with, like networking or whatever concepts you're familiar with. Then talk about your recent job which you have done, followed by the old jobs. Then talk about your degree and maybe 12th and 10th. At last, talk about your hobbies and interest, and also make sure you inform the HR about the job you're applying. So normally, after introducing with your name and your current designation or your technology you're well versed with, always start talking about, like, I'm applying for network engineering job because I feel that the JD you have given and the skills I am carrying almost matches 80%. Keep this word in between or this sentence in between. It's very important for you, and you can easily crack any interview when you say the job description to the HR and telling that my resume matches around 80 to 90% for this particular JD. Next, some of the basic questions. Let's see what a technical panel asks you when you're applying for a networking job. The first one is explain about subnetting and subnet mask. Start talking about subnetting, like to break down one big network into smaller pieces, we use subnetting. For example, like I can break 192.168.0.0/24 to small pieces by like /29 networks. Talk about subnet mask also, nothing but 255.0.0 and stuff. Next question, difference between TCP and UDP. Explain about transmission control protocol and user datagram protocol. Clearly give them three points in both of that. Next, what is DNS and how does it works? DNS basically expands to domain name system. In one line I can tell, to convert a name into an IP address we are using domain name system. Explain about different servers we are having in DNS, like root, top level domain name servers, then we have resolving name servers, and ANS, authoritative name servers. Next question, question number 5, explain DHCP and how it works. Talk about dynamic host configuration protocol, explain them about DORA process, discover, offer, request, acknowledgement. Make sure you mention the port numbers used in DHCP, which is 67 and 68. Also explain clearly about DORA process one by one. Sixth question, what is VLAN and why do we use it? VLAN basically expands to virtual LAN. To break a very big broadcast domain into smaller pieces, we are using VLAN. In single switch, by default we have one broadcast domain. If you want to break them into more than one, you have to use VLAN. And talk about the VLAN 1 is a default VLAN or native VLAN. Then talk about the VLAN ranges, like we have up to 1.2.4.0.9.6 or 9.5, sorry. Talk about different types of VLAN ranges we are having. Talk about VTP, talk about DTP and all. Question number 7, explain OSI model. In this question, first start with the reason why we are using OSI model. See, the main reason why we are using OSI model, that's because initially before OSI model came to market, basically the OSI was introduced by ISO, International Standard of Organization. Initially before OSI came into market, a Lenovo PC cannot communicate with Lenovo PC cannot communicate with HP brand. HP PC or HP laptop cannot communicate with maybe a Dell PC, because the way they are manufacturing it is completely different, because of which two different vendor devices do not communicate. So we thought of introducing OSI model, Open System Interconnect. OSI is used to communicate between two different devices. Talk about 7 layers, explain about each and every layer clearly, and also talk about PDUs involved in each layer. PDU nothing but protocol data unit. For example, we call data as data in top 3 layers. When it comes to transport layer, we call them as segment. When it comes to network layer, we call them as packet. When it comes to data link layer, we call them as frames. When it comes to physical layer, we call them as bits and bytes. Talk about that clearly. Next question. What is firewall and how does it work? Now in this question, describe a firewall. Take an example of ASI firewall, Palo Alto or FortiGate. Clearly explain why do we use firewall. For example, we use firewall for monitoring and controlling of incoming and outgoing network traffics. Now you can talk about security rules and talk about how it protects the network from some kind of unauthorized access also. Next question, the basic question, difference between a router and a switch. See, the main difference between router and switch is that router is helpful for routing functionality, switches for switching functionality. One more difference is that routers are used to connect two different network devices, whereas switches are used to connect same network devices. And routers are layer 3 and switches are layer 2. Talk about protocols, talk about the switching side, STPs, VTPs, all these things. Give examples. We're talking about how do you troubleshoot network. If they ask you this question, for example, they ask you like, how do you troubleshoot network connectivity? In that case, talk about, describe your approach to troubleshooting, including steps. For example, you check physical connections first, then you check ping reachability, then you check whether any protocols are involved or not, any error messages. You can type show log messages and verify any error messages are there in my device or not. You can list step by step. And also, it's a very useful website we have. Like you can go to Cisco community forum, log in using, create a free account for yourself, and you can read a lot of community forums actually, where they have posted a lot of troubleshooting related things, questions and all, and you can answer them. By answering them, you will learn a lot of things in it. Next, I'll talk about some of these interview tips actually for you guys. See, first interview tip, I'll give you like 5 tips. First tip, I'll talk about what you should say when you don't know the answer. Do not say you don't know. For example, HR is asking you, or technical panel asking you, hey, can you explain me what is STP? Or can you explain me what is OSPF? If you don't know OSPF, you know that OSPF is part of dynamic routing protocols setup, right? Under dynamic routing protocol, OSPF comes. If you're unaware of OSPF, talk about EIGRP, talk about BGP, talk about something else which is related to OSPF. Because see, HR's main job is not to check whether you know this or don't know this. Their main job is to check whatever you know, how much depth you understood that concept. So that's the point. So if you don't know the answer, don't say don't know. Tell them, hey, I'm sorry, I am not clear with that topic, but instead I can explain you this topic. That's the first tip. Second tip I'll give you, when you go for a walk-in interview, always carry your physical resume. Now these days, a lot of people are carrying resumes in mobile phones. That talks about more carelessness. So always carry physical resume with you and make sure you build a colorful resume. Don't build a black and white ugly looking resume. Use a canva.com website to build your free resume with free templates. Second thing. Third tip, when you finish the interview at last, try to ask, mostly the HR will ask you, or the technical person will ask you, hey, do you have any doubts or questions? And we always hesitate and we say, I don't have anything, I'm totally fine. That becomes, that is like you're not interested in that job. That's what they will feel. So, whenever HR asks you, 1 minute. So whenever HR asks you, hey, can you, like, do you have any doubts or questions in this? you tell them, yes, can you brief me about anything like shift timings, or talk about, hey, what are the additional things you want me to study, like maybe like I want to study something more to be prepared for the next panel. You can ask them the questions like this. You can ask them what is the job role, or what exactly do we do, or do we work on firewalls. Talk interestingly. Even that can give you some more few points. I forgot which point tip I was talking about. Okay, maybe tip number 4 I'll give you now. Tip number 4: once you finish the interview, don't try to call the HR. If you call HR will not pick up the calls. It's not because they don't want to pick up the call. That's mainly because, like you, HRs will be getting hundreds of calls per day in their mobile phone. So it's not practically possible for them to pick you call. But very few people, lot of people will call. For example, 50 people will call, 10 persons will WhatsApp them, only 5 or 4 people will actually email them. You get the HR email ID and go to ChatGPT and type in that, hey, I finished this interview, I want to email the HR. What do I email? You just email that to him or her. Wait for the reply. After 2 days, you do a follow-up email. Okay. Now, tip number 5, I can talk about interview preparation for your resume. Okay, yeah, resume preparation. See, always focus your resume to talk about your technology. Don't blindly mention the objective part. I am a hard-working person, so that I am looking for a job. So I am a very good team player. Don't mention these things on the objective or the profile summary. Always mention about your technology you are aware of. For example, being a CCNA trained person, I am looking forward to get a job as a network engineer in your esteemed organization, and blah blah blah. Always talk about your technological thing. There are 2 things. Objective talks about why you are applying for this job. Profile summary talks about how you became eligible to apply for that job. 2 things are there. Make sure you mention that. Next, always in resume keep one point for technical knowledge, or you can say technical expertise or technical skills. In technical skills, you put 10 lines. In that 10 lines or 10 sentences, 10 points, make sure to mention each and every technology you are aware of. For example, if you have done CCNA with Network Rhinos, you can mention like well versed with OSPF configuration, know how to configure router switches, everything line by line you can mention that. And yeah, that's it. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and if you want more videos on more contents, click on the comment box and type in whatever video you want me to make. I'll make out of my experience. Thanks a lot for watching my video, guys. Again, it's an uncut video, that's why you're not seeing any pop-up or magical things and all going here and there. Uncut video means it's like a plain video. I record it, I upload it, that's it. Thank you guys, bye.